What is it that makes a city feel dangerous? We're about to jump into a really surprising new ranking that looks at exactly that. And here's the twist. This has nothing to do with official police reports. Nope. This is all about the perceptions of the people who actually live in these cities. And let me tell you, the results? They are probably not what you're expecting.
So, let's start with the big question. If you had to guess, right now, which city in Europe do its own residents think is the most dangerous? Just think about it for a second. Your mind probably goes to a huge capital city, maybe one with a bit of a reputation, right? Well, get ready for a surprise. And the answer is Bradford in the UK. Yeah, you heard that right. With a crime index score of 67.1, it's right at the top of the list. I'm guessing that wasn't your first pick, which is exactly why this whole thing is so interesting. We've got to unpack what's going on here. So let's zoom in on the top of this list. Bradford is number 1, but who else is keeping it company in those top spots?
Okay, looking at the top 5, you can see a pattern emerging almost immediately. You've got Bradford, of course, then Marseille in France, and Naples in Italy, cities that, sometimes have a certain reputation. But then look, 2 more UK cities, Coventry and Birmingham, are right there in the top 4. So right off the bat, we're seeing the UK, France, and Italy really standing out.
And that thing with the UK cities, it's not a fluke, it is a definite trend that continues as you go down the list. So let's focus in on that for a second.
And wow, this really drives the point home. In total, 6 British cities show up in the top 30. You've got Bradford, Coventry, and Birmingham all packed into the top 4. That's huge. And then a bit further down, you find major hubs like Manchester and even London, with Nottingham also making the list. Pretty surprising, right?
But believe it or not, the UK isn't even the country with the most cities on this list. For that, we've got to hop over the channel to France.
And here's why. A whopping 7 French cities are in the top 30. You've got Marseille way up there at number 2, which might not be a huge shock to some. But what's really fascinating here is seeing places like Paris, Lyon, and Nice on the list. These are massive cultural centers and tourist hotspots.
This chart just lays it all out, crystal clear. France is leading the pack with 7 cities. The UK is right behind with 6, and Italy has a pretty strong showing with 4. When you add it up, these 3 countries account for 17 of the top 30 cities. That tells you that this feeling of being unsafe seems to be especially concentrated in these places, at least according to the people surveyed.
But okay, this isn't just a story about those 3 countries. Not at all. This feeling of unease is a pan-European thing, with cities from all over the continent popping up.
I mean, just look at the spread here. You have cities like Malmö in Sweden, Brussels in Belgium, Dublin in Ireland, all the way over to Minsk in Belarus. It's a really clear sign that this concern about safety, this perception of danger, is something you can find all over Europe.
Okay, so this next part is maybe the most important bit of this entire explainer. We've seen all these numbers and rankings, but what do they actually mean? How is this so-called crime index even calculated?
So the source for all this is a website called Numbeo. And the key thing to know is that their index is built entirely from survey data. They're not looking at police files, they're asking visitors to their site about their feelings, how safe they feel walking around, what their worries are. It's all about perception. And this is the distinction we absolutely have to understand. This list, it is a perception-based index. It's all about feelings. It is not the same thing as official crime statistics, which are based on hard data, actual police reports. A city could have low official crime rates, but still rank really high on this list if its citizens just feel unsafe.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? This whole thing is a reflection of public sentiment. It's a snapshot of the collective anxiety or the sense of security, or maybe the lack of it, that people have in their hometowns.
So where does all this leave us? What do we actually learn from a list that's more about perception than it is about police blotters?
All right, let's just pull it all together. The number one thing to remember, this list is about how people feel, not what the official crime stats say. And that feeling can be shaped by anything, right? From news headlines to a city's old reputation. And what the data is showing us right now is that this feeling of concern seems to be highest among people living in a lot of cities across the UK and France.
And that brings us to one last really important question to think about. When it comes to our own sense of safety, what really has more power? Is it the cold, hard data, or is it the stories we hear and the stories we tell ourselves? Something to chew on.